You are listening to the What a Word podcast, an interview-style podcast where guests bring their unique experiences and insight on culture, life's challenges, and faith. Each episode is seasoned with words which will inspire and encourage. Now, here is your host, Ryan Sharp.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of the What a Word podcast. It's a beautiful Sunday, and I'm so thankful for another opportunity at life. My guest today is Simone Smith. She's a poet, an educator, published author, podcaster, and entrepreneur. We did some catching up before I started recording, and one of the things I didn't mention to her is that I've been taking some small steps. I'm not a fan of exercise, and I have a whole set in my home, which I've ignored for some time. And I decided I wanted to do at least 30 minutes of exercise. And believe it or not, I could not even get to 30 minutes. So what I decided to do was do 15 minutes. And then I realized I could do 15 minutes twice a day to get to my 30 minutes. So it's a small step. It's a small step, but believe it or not, I feel so much better. And I want to encourage those of us, whatever it is, man. It could be your dream. It could be something that you don't even like doing. Small steps go a long way. Don't believe you have to accomplish a whole milestone in a minute. Take those small steps. They go a long way. And if my story, I'm hoping it'll encourage you to this week. Whatever it is, whether it's reading a good book, whether it's doing something you put off for a long time, take those small steps. It goes a long way. Simone, I'm so happy to have you on. My good friend and also a fellow podcaster. Thank you so much for joining me on the What a Word podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. It's good to see you, even though virtually. It's good to see you. You know,
love this medium, man. Love it.
Thanks. And somebody I've known for, we won't even get into how many years.
We'll date ourselves. Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned the small steps because I have a bike here at home, a Peloton, and I've been trying to do the 30 minutes 3 times a week. But I said, man, I still kind of miss the gym because there was a pool and the sauna and stuff that I could use. And I said to a friend of mine, all right, I'm gonna do the gym membership. But one of the things I'm working on is following through for myself. Yeah. Wow. I'm good with other people, but for myself, I could sometimes push things along. And then finally on Thursday, I was at work on lunch break, and something said, just go on the gym's website. And they had a special. It was like sign up for $1. And I said, nice. I can't turn this down. So nice. I did it. I got a gym membership again. So yeah, let's check in on each other end of the year. Let's see what we've done.
Oh man, it makes such a difference, man. I feel so energized. No matter how late I go to bed, if I put in that 15, man, and drinking more water, all of the stuff, therapy, whatever it is, man, do those things that help to improve self-care for yourself, because we live, and we spoke off the record, Simone, we live in some challenging times, and it can be so exhausting that we need to do whatever we can to improve our quality of life. I'm honored to have you, man. I was thinking about it and I read your bio where it referenced that you were a published author. I think around the time you released your first book, as far as I can remember anyway, I was accustomed to maybe the pastors or celebrities publishing books, but I did not have a peer, as far as I can remember, who wrote and published a book. What led to your deciding at that time anyway to write and publish your own book?
Oh man, so the first one, and that's, believe it or not, I was checking it the other day, that was like 10 years ago, right? 2011. And at that time, Facebook was still basically a college-led thing. You had to have been in college as a way to connect with pairs at that time, not as open as it is today. And I used to throw up all these different quotes. And a friend of mine was like, hey, these quotes that you're putting up, you should put them all in one place.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, whatever. Didn't pay it any mind. But then I would keep posting them. I'd get likes, I'd get comments on them. And one day I just decided, oh, let me just put them in a book. And that's how my first book came about, Lessons from My Journey.
Wow.
But writing is something that I've always been very passionate about. Poetry, I have books hidden all over the place of poems that I've written. At work now, I get to exercise that skill a bit more because I help my students with their college essays. So I helped a couple and word got out. So they come to me and, hey, Simone, can you help me with this? And, you know, they all know me as the storyteller. They come with a draft and then I tell them I make it pretty. And so I've been doing that. Since 2011, I've done 2 other self-published books, which is just because I work so much with young people. That's really where my heart is, and just motivating them through my words. So the second one was Facing the Mountain and Making It Over. And the most recent, which I released in 2020, right before COVID, it came out in January, was You're Worth It. So yeah, those are out there. You find them on Amazon.
So you were born on US soil?
I was, though a lot of people don't believe it.
But I mean, I'm sure because you have parents from the Caribbean, you had to deal with the whole cultural dynamics anyway. I mean, you had to deal with some type of dichotomy, I'm sure.
Yeah, but that's really it for me. I tell people I'm American born, and that's really the extent of it. Because once you step in the household, right, it's Jamaica. It's porridge for breakfast. It's, you know, chicken and rice and peas and ackee and sawfish, and that those were the foods that I ate. Those were the people that I associated with. All my friends were of the same dynamic, right? We were born here, but America only lives outside of our front door. And up to the other day, I was having a conversation with some family and a friend, and we were talking about the struggle in school because we would learn certain words, right, that were not a part of the American vocabulary. And we were telling the story how she called me one day to ask the American version of a veranda. And because she's telling everybody, yeah, I have a veranda. My dad put the basketball hoop on the veranda. And what are you talking about? And so I had to tell her, oh, that's a porch. And so she went back to them and they're all like, oh, porch. And then there was another time I called her because I'm telling somebody to catch the door open and the person didn't know what I was telling and I didn't know how to translate it.
Sure.
And she had to tell me, you know, ask him to just hold the door open, put something to stop the door. So it's been very interesting growing up in a Jamaican household. For elementary school, I went to a small church school that also was predominantly West Indian, definitely Jamaican. My church was the same. And my friends were all the same. It wasn't until I went to high school that I really mixed, so to speak, with individuals who were of a non-Afro-Caribbean background, right? So I started to have classmates who were Puerto Rican or Dominican. I had white teachers. I had Black American teachers. And that was another dynamic that I had to navigate. Right? So this one world that I've known for so many years, and now coming into the world of the place where I was actually living. And then for college, you know, I moved to Jamaica. And that was another experience because for me, I was always Jamaican, right? Summers in Jamaica, family Jamaican. And then I got there and people are like, oh, look at this international student. oh, she thinks that she's nice because her tuition paid. Like I had to deal with those situations as well. So this thing of like not really fitting in to any world that I was actually living in. And that was something that I struggled with for a long time. And I remember having a conversation with someone sometime during COVID, and they were talking about the same experience. And I asked them how they navigated that. And they talked about not being othered. And they were like, that's not my issue that you have a problem with me. I'm not going to be othered in any space that I know I belong in. And when she said that, I said, oh, all right, there it is, you know.
Wow, that's heavy, because what you covered is intersectionality, imposter syndrome, code switching. We deal with so much just on a weekly basis as people of color that I think it's understated just how much we have to deal with. I mean, it's a lot there, man. It's a lot. It's a lot. What led to they move to Northern Caribbean University to get that degree?
So when I was finishing up, it was always following in the footsteps of my cousins. And one of the things I did was apply to every school that they had applied to see if I would get in. I also wanted to go to school in Jamaica because they all got to go to school in Jamaica for primary, secondary school for a while. My parents were like, yeah, that's not happening. We're not sending you, because my grandmother had passed when I was like 1. My grandfather passed, I think, when I was in 8th grade or something like that. So they're like, who are we sending you to? Right? He was older when I was in, primary grade school. So they said, no, that's not going to happen. So college was really my opportunity to get to live in Jamaica and go to school. And so I applied. It was a process. And honestly, from the way that the process went, if I had paid attention to it, I wouldn't have gone to school there, because it wasn't easy. It was a challenge. Even the first day that I went for registration, people were not very nice to me. I've seen people who were not nice to me in current times, and they had no idea who I was. But because of how they treated me, I knew who they were.
My Lord.
But anyhow, I went and I spent 3 years. I did my associates. I didn't stay for my bachelor's. And I came back. I made some good friends down there. And there were a couple of good people who were family members of, people I went to church with here, who really looked out for me and made sure I had food to eat and, a place of respite when I needed it. And so overall, it was definitely a learning experience. Would I do it again? I don't know. But for what it was, it definitely has helped me in being the person I am today. So yeah, and NCU, it has its place and its story.
And I've learned, I think it comes up every now and then, especially for people who are passionate about that institution, just the needs of students, those who are desiring a better life, and just the challenges they deal with, and not having the resources, etc. Did you find a lot of that while you were there, that people were really living in dire circumstances but trying to make it through the school year?
Oh yeah, there were people who they were on their 10th year because it's one class a semester they could afford to take, or they went for a couple years and then family emergency and they had to leave, or they just didn't have the money, so they were working. So they're still working at the school, but they weren't actually students because they were saving up money to go back. And, I was fortunate in that sense, that because I was coming from here and the exchange rate, I was one of the few kids who I come home when I go for January or August. I have a little envelope. My dad had my school check in there, and I could go straight to accounting and drop that off. But anyone who knows me knows that I've been a hustler long time. Like that's the New York in me. And before going to NCU, I was at boarding school where tuition was a lot more, and I had to do work study. And I would wake up 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning to go to factory and box items so that I could have money to go to the mall or to just buy personal items. And it was the same thing when I was in Jamaica. My tuition was paid for, but I still needed books. I needed travel money to go to grandma on weekends, or if I wanted to go by my auntie and hang out. So I still worked. I worked in with one of the VPs. I had a job. Funny, I had a job at an ice cream factory, just like bakery down there. They had this career fair, and I met this person, started talking to them, and found out he owned this ice cream parlor. And I got a job there, and I worked there for the rest of the time, would work weekends and holidays. Yes, I was always a hustler, right along with everyone else. So while my school fees were paid for, I still worked a little more to have pocket money, and able to enjoy my time down there.
Was that where your passion to become an educator was birthed, or did that happen later
on?
Okay.
No, that came way after. Honestly, I wanted to be a dentist.
Okay.
Yeah, from I was 10, I wanted to be a dentist. Went on a mission trip with my aunt, got to work with the dentist, and that's all I wanted to do. That's all I knew. I had no backup plan going into college. I was going to do dentistry. What caused the shift was going there. They had a dental hygiene program. Somebody we knew ran it. What I didn't know at the time was that the program wasn't yet accredited in the States. So if I had done it, I would have come here and still not have been able to do anything. And so that's when I shifted to English, which is really a first love for me. But I never wanted to be a teacher. My mom is a teacher, so people automatically assume that's what I wanted to do, and it wasn't. Like, furthest thing from me. But I've always been in youth services. So in church, working in the youth, volunteering in the youth department. I used to work for the Upward Bound program for years after I had graduated. So that demographic was really a part of who I was, kind of a natural progression, but not to be a classroom teacher. And even though I'm one now, that's the one thing people hear me cuss about, is that I don't think I'm meant to be a classroom teacher.
I know you are at University Heights High School, which is where in the Bronx is that? Is that south?
Yeah, we're down South Bronx near 3rd Ave.
How long now? And talk to us about what that experience is like.
Oh, University Heights, that's home for me. I actually graduated from there when it used to be on the campus of Bronx Community. And some years ago, I had started a nonprofit, was doing some work over there, had always stayed connected. And the principal, who used to be my teacher, we're there, an opening came up, and she said, "Hey, this might be something you're interested in. Give it a try." And so I was there a couple of days a week with this program doing college and career readiness, which I liked. I get in, talk to kids, I get out. And after a couple of years there, I was working on another degree. And she says, "Why don't you just get your teaching license?" I was like, "No, I'm good. That's not my ministry. I'm good." And she goes, "No, you really should. Like, just get it." I said, "All right, we'll see what happens." And, prayed about it. And was looking at what programs I could get into that wouldn't take me another how many years. And I reached out to someone at Lehman, and they said, send over your transcripts. And I sent my transcripts, and she goes, whoa. All right, so I can have you certified in like the next 6 months. You go come in, I interviewed, she said, take the GRE because you have to. She's like, we don't need your scores with these grades, but take the GRE and then we'll work it out. And so I said, okay, I did that, came in, took the couple classes, got my temporary license, and just like she promised, I had my license by the ending of the spring semester and was able to become a full-time teacher. So since that time, I started at the school in 2014, part-time. Since then, I've become full-time. I'm tenured now as an English teacher. But I do a lot more than that, you know.
And we could get right into it because I'm sure, and you've invited me before, and I know the demographics, etc. And I think your school has an impactful college prep program as well. You must see though the challenges on the ground in terms of equity and equality, in terms of unpack that for listeners and viewers. Sims, what's your view of what's happening on the ground?
It's equality. Some people want to say that there's equality, but there really isn't. We have a good principal. And I'm sure when I send this to her, she'll listen to it. So shout out to Hazel, who is very much so about the students. You know, she also graduated from the school. So that's one of the unique things over at the Heights, is that there are staff members who have graduated from the school. We know what it's like to sit in the seats. We also have a very low turnover rate. So a number of the staff members have been there, 10 plus years, 15 plus years. And even though the student demographic has changed over the years, as we were once an alternative school, we're still a part of the consortium. So our students are, they don't do the regions like at the traditional schools. They do more performance-based learning. We have a huge desire, I would say, for college prep. And now I'm trying to knock down the wall for the career prep. Like, it's good that we're getting them ready for college, but we have to get them ready for life. Because whether they go into the workforce right out of high school or after 4 years at Columbia, they need certain skills, right? Interviewing, how to dress, how to communicate, those interpersonal relationships. So we've been working on more internships, apprenticeships. I've gotten certified in that area so that we could really help to build that up. One of the interesting things at the school, though, is that we have a large immigrant population. So even though we're located in the South Bronx, we're down there on 3rd Avenue, a number of our kids are coming from the North Bronx, which, has always had a number of immigrants. They're coming from Co-op City. They're coming from other boroughs. Because we have such a good program, and Hazel is really trying to make things equitable, because what is equal, right? Just because Fieldston has it, right? Or Horace Mann has it, and we give it to our kids, it doesn't mean that they're able to attain it the same. So we have to make it equitable for our kids. What other steps do we need to put in place so that everyone is at this starting line, so that everyone is getting this access? So whether it is bringing in speakers, like you've come in for decision day. I have this career week that I have built out over the past couple years, where I think this year I had almost 30 people coming in throughout the week to talk to students, bringing in WNBA players. We forged a nice partnership with them where the CEO and the player has come in and talked to them about their journey. Just this past week, they got to go in and view the arena. So we got to visit Barclays and see the court and see some of the other roles of professions that are there.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, man, we're trying to do our best to make sure that when our kids leave us, one, they don't feel other, because people hear, oh, you work in the South Bronx. I feel so sorry for you. Why? I'm not sorry for myself. I love my kids. Because the fact is, if I was probably working in the city, then you'd hear me on the news, right? Because you have kids who feel privileged, or the parents who feel I'm only there to serve them, while I'm working with a population of students who know, look, my parents came here, or they brought me here for this opportunity. And so I'm going to work hard for it. I'm going to take advantage. I'm going to do what it is that I have to do to make it better. And it's like, all right, let's get this done. Let's help you get to this next place in life. So I love the Heights. I always said, if I'm not there, I'm not teaching anywhere else. Because it's just this special place.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've had some success stories where you were like, but for my, helping and assisting, it changed the trajectory for someone. And you could share off the top. I know you probably have some students who, have a special place.
Yeah. I have this one story. My first day, before working there, I used to work in juvie, right? Juvenile detention. So I'm used to, I tell you something, you do it. You don't ask any questions. If you have a problem, we put you on the floor and that's it, right? No questions asked. That's the background I'm coming from. Knowing I'm coming into a school, might get a little bit of pushback, but wasn't expecting a lot. Anyhow, it's my first day in the classroom, and we're talking, introducing themselves, and this kid, he decides he wouldn't stop talking. Can you stop talking? And his response was, no, you stop talking. And I said, that's exactly. You're not talking to me. So I said, stop talking. No, you stop talking. I said, all right, well, you could just leave the room, right? Forget. I don't know any rules about you can't kick kids out the classroom. I was like, you need to go. He was like, nah, you need to go. I was like, oh, my first day and it's about to be my last, because I don't know who this kid think he's talking to. I step out in the hallway, happened to see one of the social workers. I said, I need your help right now. He came in, took the kid. He was a little belligerent, but he took him out. He talked afterwards. Principal was like, yeah, we don't do that here. Like, we don't disrespect staff. You go home and think about it for a few days. And that was his freshman year. I had him again as a senior. He was a bit better by this time. Hey, Simone, how you doing? We're on a first name basis, so students call us by our first names. Hey, Simone, how you doing? What's up, Justin? He graduated, ends up coming back and being my assistant coach for basketball.
Wow.
Like, as we would call my pocketbook. Anywhere I went, he was there. And coached with me for another 3 years. And we talk about the story all the time, how when we first met, that incident and how he did not like me. And I was like, I don't know who this kid think he is. And now,
Wow.
My little brother, I called as a matter of fact, I need to hit him up and see how he's doing. But he'll text me every once in a while. Hey, what's going on? And I check on him. You in school? You working? What are you doing? So yeah, that is definitely one of my success stories.
That's awesome, man. And I like how you slipped in the basketball coach. How many things are you responsible for in your school?
Oh man. This past year, I'll just put it like that, I coached 3 sports, one each season. So volleyball in the fall, basketball in the winter. I did tennis in the spring. I sponsored the girls club. We also have a book club. I oversee with one of my other co-workers, our executive apprenticeship program, CareerWise. So have students there who are apprentices at some major companies, Amazon, MasterCard, Credit Suisse. So helping students get into that program every year. This summer, I've taken on another responsibility with summer youth. I'm sure you remember summer youth, right? So our school was a site this year.
Oh, nice.
So I've been overseeing that program and those students. And a lot of the career planning that takes place at the school. So like planning career week, bringing in different individuals, whether virtually or in person. This year we had, I don't know if you know Frederick Joseph.
The name rings a bell.
He's like this activist author. So he did a virtual visit. Like I said, had the Liberty come in and some other folks. So a lot of the planning, the post-secondary stuff, I do students, their college essays. I put a lot of work into that as well. So yeah, I do some long days, sometimes some 12-hour days.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
You are also aware, I'm sure, more than others, that before your students can get to learning, there's a lot of other issues that they have to overcome. And good illustration with the young man who you mentioned earlier, and I'm glad for the outcome of that. Listeners should also know that you're a Christian who helps young people, works with young people as well. Do you feel we are living in a bubble when it comes to meeting the needs of the young ones now?
If the church is in a bubble, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some places the bubble may be a bit thinner. They could see a little bit more.
Sure.
And other places, no, it's definitely a bubble. It's as if the world doesn't exist. These things that they hear are only on the news. The young people are just troubled. And it's a constant fight because like, yo, where were you as a young person? Right? You tell these stories, but you don't want to actually recount it to those who need to hear it in order to become better. And so we have this huge generational gap, right, of individuals who are like, do as I say, it's not as I do. And then you have these younger ones who are, I'm going to do what I want to do, right, regardless of what you say, because you're fake, right? And that, I mean, that's something that I've experienced as well, where I've always appreciated the person who, you don't have to tell me your whole life story.
Sure.
But to say, you know what, I had this experience or I went through that. I have much more respect for that person than the one who pretends as if they've never done anything in their life. And I'm like, be glad that there was no Google back in your days, right? Be glad there were no phones to record things, because it would be living on. So yeah, I believe the church is in a bubble, doing my best to bring the reality of my day-to-day, right, the experiences of my students to the church and help them see that there are young people out there who want guidance. There are young adults out there who, it's not that we have strayed from God. We've just strayed away from, we haven't strayed. We have decided that we're not going to tolerate the hypocrisy of church members, because that is not going to decide my salvation. Right? So the relationship with me and God is good. You may not like how it is, but I'm in communication with him and we're good. You and I, though, may be a different story, but I'm going to learn to just let you live so that this relationship can stay good, you know. And that's how I really became involved with FLOW Ministries down in Maryland, where we're just trying to help people make it day to day, right? Let's talk about the things that are really affecting us as young adults in 2022. Why is it that so many young adults nowadays are only professionals, right? Most of us, our parents by this time were married, had 3-4 kids. They're on like their 20th anniversary. And that's not so much the case anymore for a number of different reasons. But how do we interact? How do we grow beyond this? How are we getting past the church hurt, right? That's a new phrase. The family hurt, the family secrets? What are we doing to become better people? And like that's where I am. I tell people now, like, look, therapy was like this. We don't do that, right? You pray about it, read your Bible, and that's it. And I'm like, yeah, that didn't work for a number of y'all. So I'm gonna try something different. And it was still this shame, right? We don't talk about it, we don't do it. But man, that's one of the best things. Shout out to my therapist. I won't say their name, but we've been rocking for a while now, and she's good people. She's good people.
Good on you with that, Simone. I want to shout out mine as well. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, man, I lock in, and that thing has helped me so much. And people have to understand, man, there are things we have to unpack. And
Yep.
you don't have to be that person who has experienced quote unquote extensive trauma. But there are things that we don't have the ability to deal with that we've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And we need the help of qualified professionals to help us sort out those things. And kudos to prayer and fasting, but God knows that we need angels on earth to help us along the way, man. So
Listen, I tell people, I'm like, we go to the doctor, right? We trust and pray. We send people off to medical school, and it's, oh, God is helping them. And, you know, God gave the medical doctor these skills to know how to perform this surgery and to do this stuff. And we go to the dentist and we take care of our physical bodies. But when it comes to the mental health, it's like, I'm not doing that. You know, we don't need that. You just need to pray about it. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So God gave the medical doctor these skills, but the mental health professionals, nah, he didn't give them that skill. No, he gave them skills. Because for my therapist to tolerate me, I don't know. If I were her, I probably would have gotten rid of me a while ago. She's probably like, I don't know why I took this client. But we're rocking it out. And it's helpful. And like you said, it's not that you necessarily went through some major trauma, but life itself, you're growing up in New York, you see some things, you experience some things, you go through things in church, you go through things in life, and sometimes we just brush it under the rug, because that's what we've been taught to do, right? You don't talk about it, you just brush it under the rug. But eventually the rug, all the dirt creates a lump, and you trip over it. So now you scuff up yourself because you trip. So what do we do at this point?
And especially, as you said, Simone, for people who are raised in church, a lot of times there's no truth or reconciliation.
Yeah.
So we just move on. We've heard people, and it's back to the next scheduled service. And people have been affected. And sometimes there's no other safe place, man, but therapy. And I wish more people would engage. I'm in spaces where I mention it and then the room gets quiet because, as you indicated, there's this stigma. But believe me, man, that thing could change your life. And again, you may connect with someone who doesn't work. It's not a good fit. Try and find someone else. It doesn't mean that, it's not a good thing because it didn't work out the first time or.
Absolutely. I had one and I was like, oh, this is not helping. And I said to my friends, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I am not. They were like, no. And I said, I'm not doing it again. I prayed about it, honestly. And this other person I met, I was like, oh, you seem kind of cool. And I reached out and we've been able to work it out. But I tell everybody nowadays, go find a therapist. I got some numbers. I have some friends. See if one of them have an opening. It's seriously, we've just been so conditioned to figure things out on our own, right? Especially as West Indians, you figure it out on your own. You don't bring anyone into your business. Pray about it if you need to, and then God will take care of it. And it's like, no, sometimes it requires a little bit more. I got to dig through some stuff. I got to, it hurts. I come out cussing sometimes, cussing the therapist, cussing everybody. And then you sit down and say, all right.
Realer than rap, man. Realer than rap. Listen, I know we moved to a new community a year ago, and one of the neighbors came by, a very accomplished woman, and she was telling my wife the story. My wife related to me about how when she was 5, how a teacher treated her. And this lady has to be about maybe 68 years old now. But this lady recounted an experience she had at 5 to my wife, who was a complete stranger at that time, and was crying. The hurt from that was still very real to this person. And you and I know individuals who are older than we are, who are carrying, you know, and I didn't know we were going to get on this, but here we are. Please consider it, man. It will make you whole. It'll improve your life. It's good for your mental health, man. Don't feel that, you know, this thing is not for you, because it could be the difference in your life, man. Consider therapy.
Yeah. And those you interact with.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because, you know, you may not deal with this issue and you're taking it out on other people who are, you know, they're not
aware.
even
They
a
don't
threat
even
to you.
know. It's
Because
true.
you won't address your issues, right? Yeah. And it's affecting your current and future relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Find a therapist. Find a therapist.
You're also one of the few people I knew who at that time started a not-for-profit, Bridges Enrichment Services. What was the goal of Bridges? And tell us why you started that not-for-profit.
My love for young people. My love for young people and my love for service. So it was, how can I put these two things together? How can I get resources and places where they don't exist? So like I said, before I started working at my school, I was volunteering there. And my business partner at the time, we were running like a leadership club. We had a chess club, girls club. Since that time, the other clubs, other staff of the school have taken over, but I've kept my girls club. And so we were doing those things, donating things to schools overseas. So did a couple of like back to school drives, schools in Jamaica, sending resources to them. Through the girls club, we've partnered with a school in Antigua, a friend of mine, and sent their girls club a barrel of like school supplies, feminine hygiene products. And that was really my goal of Bridges. Things happen, life happened. It hasn't been functioning the way I've wanted it to, but it's still my heart project.
Sure.
Something
and the need is still there, man. Certainly.
Something that I want to relaunch. Is going to look a little different this time around. However, service is who I am. I don't know. I want to be rich one day, but it's not really to be rich for me. It's so that I can then give more. Anyone who knows me, that's just what I'm really about. So that was Bridges as my baby, and it's something that I still want to bring back, and to be able to provide more services in the community, whether it's back to school drives. We've done pie drives in the past for Thanksgiving. We're just giving out pies to families to go along with their Thanksgiving dinner. We've done coat drives, done community dinners, things of that nature, and a couple of mission trips as well. So I'm all about the service. In the meantime, I've been doing that through my school and through my ministry work with FLOW.
Sure. So Simone, somebody listening and viewing, they want to do something as well. I started off our conversation by talking about small steps. The work is great, and you know the word says the harvest is ripe, the laborers are few. That person sees the tremendous work that's demanded and doesn't feel their work will have a ripple effect. What could you say to that person?
Find that one thing, your starting point. So if you're creative, there's that one that one niche that you have. So I like to write. Like anybody who knows me knows I love to write. I'm a storyteller. So even in my speeches, when I'm helping my students with their essays, there's a story to it. I had gotten away from it for a while, but got back into it during COVID when I connected with an author, and I used to go to this like online open mic. So like that was my starting point to writing again, was going to this open mic, writing out my stuff, and then like, oh, okay, I got the opportunity to share it. So finding that one step, that one little thing that you can do. Schools are opening. If you want to do a donation, find a back to school activity, a back to school drive. I actually have a couple that I'm a part of. So if anybody reaches out to me, I can show you where to send that money or buy the supplies and drop them off. One is here in the Bronx in New York. Another one is over in Maryland. So yeah, you just find that small step and find, as Black Americans, as Afro-Caribbean people, we tend to do things on our own. Find that person that will be your support, who will back you up, as crazy as your idea is. My fiance, I said to him the other day, we were texting, and I said, I have a dilemma. And he goes, what crazy idea is it this time? That's why I love you. And I was like, no, it's a real dilemma this time. I was trying to figure out something. But he knows. I'm always late at night. I don't sleep. I'm thinking of different ideas, different things that I can do. And he supports that. So find somebody, find that friend. I have some good friends as well who support me. They know who they are. And help me go through the process. Find that one thing. All right, so you're doing too much right now, or let's take a step back. So yeah, that's my long-winded answer. I apologize for just finding that one.
I like it a lot, man. I like it. You know, it confirms something my wife said to me. I'm a public defender, and I say, you know, I meet some of my clients too late in life. I wish there was something I could start. And she was like, well, why don't you start by aligning yourself with an organization that's currently doing the thing that you want to do in terms of meeting them where they are, mentoring, etc. And I think you confirmed for me that sometimes we don't have to recreate the wheel. If there's a need, align yourself with a support group or an organization that's already doing the work.
Yep.
And then you can maybe later on start your own thing.
Yeah.
But don't let the big thing get in the way of doing something, or get in the way of your taking a small step.
Yeah. Those small organizations, that's what they're there for. They're trying to, they can use the support. So if that works for you, just do that. Find somebody you could work with. You could drop off some book bags. You can drop off some food items. If there's a school that once a month you can go into and play chess with the kids, or you can volunteer as a coach, do something like that. They're absolutely out there ready. If you don't know where to start, find me. My school, we're always looking for new partners, internships, apprenticeships, different experiences for our students. Yeah.
Please share one of your poems with us.
All right. I usually don't recite too much, but I figured this is a perfect place to do it. This is one of my favorite poems, and an author that I look up to actually enjoys it as well. So it's called Where I'm From. I'm from Bob Marley and Dennis Brown, from Tupac and Biggie, Jodeci, and pre-Nick, Mariah Carey. I'm from plastic on the couch and good china, don't run in the house and Sunday trips to the diner. I'm from vacations to back home, sitting on the veranda with my grandma, Jamaican beaches and fish dinners, the best KFC, have you licking your fingers. I'm from a complicated world where my tongue switches codes and flavor and color are sometimes spelled with a U. The dual citizenship of my fluid accents allow me to coexist. I'm from the Bronx, the home of hip hop. Give it up one time for Cedric Ave and then corner blocks, where some of the greatest rhymes were created, from the greatest minds they were formulated. University Ave cut across the Cypress, Orchard Beach, then over the High Bridge, Yankee Stadium and Pelham Parkway, Fordham Road by the D train. I'm from street lights as curfew and Mr. Softy trucks, two-way pagers and payphones and new kids on the block. I'm from a unique mixture that created this unique picture, and my words blend and form the perfect tincture. I'm from Nas and Jay to Beanie Man and Bounty Killer, but I still flex when WAP comes out the speaker. Please, don't get it twisted. Don't let this education fool you. I'm still a chick from the Bronx and I will school you. I will read you your rights quicker than them Project Light flicker. Again, don't get it twisted. I know how to play the game. And when I'm done with you, you'd be full of shame. And the best thing you could do is remember my name. So allow me to introduce myself. I'm Sim the Motivator. I'm passing through today with 2 pieces of paper and some words I wrote down fresh from my head, held together like fabric with needle and thread, like a hammer to a nail or a ball in the hoop. Come in closer so I could give you the scoop. The lowdown, the dirty, the ins and outs, that little piece of info you hope slips out my mouth. But nothing slips. I'm from the Bronx. We always come correct, like that old school group, Das Effect. I rep 2 homes, 2 countries, 2 sets of money, but 1 heart, 1 love, 1 simple goal. Stay straight, watch your back, and look out for the mole. Again, I'm sharing a little bit of my story, some pieces of where I'm from, and letting you know that I've only just begun.
Powerful, sis. Powerful. Simone, I'm going to ask you to share all your handles. Listeners should know I highlighted it at the beginning. She also is a podcast host. Please, Simone, give us all the handles, ways to connect with you. You can catch up on her old episodes before the new ones come out. Just list all the handles, ways they can connect.
Oh, man. All right. IG, you can find my podcast at A Conscious Blend, or sim_the_motivator. You can find me on Twitter, the same thing, Sim the Motivator. And as I said, I do ministry with FLOW. You can find us on IG, FLOW Ministries, on Facebook as well. If you want to get some more information, be a part of any of the projects that I am doing, you can email me at aconsciousblend@gmail.com.
Simone Smith, poet, educator, published author, podcast, and entrepreneur. Simone, thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Sunday on the Waterword podcast.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, bro. Good seeing you.
You too, sis. Most welcome. Most welcome.